of modelers to form an opinion and to provide a work product to my clients. So I would say I'm very experienced with reviewing models, including variable density models, and assessing whether or not they're fit for purpose. That's really my, when I review a model, the question is always, is it fit for purpose? That's a very common assignment.
Okay. And if we go back to your exhibit 62, which has a little bit of additional information that's important, that would be Marina 62, please. That's your testimony. And we go to page 4. I'm sorry, we should let him see the first page. You did it right, Ms. Mullen. I apologize. Let's scroll down so we can see what we're looking at. You recognize this document, Mr. Titsa?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to page 4. I want to look at paragraph 6. And maybe you can shrink it enough so we can see the whole paragraph, assuming it's still legible to you, Mr. Titsa. You remember writing this?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you chose to identify what your key areas of expertise are?
Yes.
And modeling's not listed, correct?
That's correct.
And reviewing models isn't listed.
That's correct.
And reviewing variable density models is not listed.
That's correct.
And modeling in the coastal environment is not listed.
That's also correct.
Okay. Can we go to paragraph 8? I'm going to need a little bit of a vocabulary lesson from you. Would you like this bigger? I don't want to make you strain.
Oh, no. I mean, if I look like I'm squinting a little bit, I hope, if it bothers folks, then we can enlarge it, but I'm good.
If you're good. Okay, great. So in this first sentence, all of which relate to models, you identify conceptualization, development, application, and review. Are those each separate things?
Yes.
Okay. Could you give me a brief definition of each?
Conceptualization, when you first embark on a project and you decide that you need a model as a tool, you need to take a step back and decide what tool you're going to use and how you're going to construct it so that you can appropriately answer the questions that you need to in order to complete your project. So I'm very frequently involved in that role. Development is the actual implementation of that conceptualization, and I'm very frequently and very closely involved with my teams when that gets put together. Application. I'm sorry.
Pause you. So actually,
excuse me, Mr. Osias, let the witness finish.
No, I just wanted to ask him if development includes building the model.
Why don't you let him answer your first question?
Because he was going to application, and I'll let him go to that next if you don't mind.
Well, let me go back to development. That includes building the model.
Thank you.
That, in fact, is building the model, and then and calibrating it. And then application is in the use of that model. How are you going to apply it to answer the questions that need to be applied? Are you, is it a forecast model? Is it being used in a superposition approach? There's various different ways that a model can play a role. And then review of models is a whole separate category that, includes projects such as this one, as well as in general, maybe reviewing a prior model to see if it's useful for answering your particular questions or whether it needs updating, or learning from a prior model and seeing if you want to extract information from it into your model. There's various different phases of review.
Okay.
And it includes both groundwater flow and solute transport models more routinely, and has included models where variable density flow has come into play.
Okay. I think you got to where I was going, but I wanted to understand the differences before I asked the question. And without a depot, of course, I have to ask a lot more questions. And that is, for this current assignment of this list, the review is the most descriptive label. Is that correct?
I think that's a little bit ambiguous. I mean, I think it depends on, when I write conceptualization, development, and application, I have very specific things in mind, and I think those are very specific things to a person who routinely uses groundwater models.
I'm sorry,
as well as review.
My question might have been bad. In the
Okay.
task that you got from Mr. Spalding for this AHO proceeding, you didn't develop a model, correct?
No, we did not.
You didn't apply a model, you reviewed a model. Is that correct?
That's correct. So our work on the model was limited to extracting and post-processing information from the model to evaluate it.
Okay. And then as you look at the very bottom of this page with the sentence that starts sort of in the right-hand bottom corner, where you say what your role is, this is what you wrote. Do you see where it says my role is generally to oversee and direct work by modelers? If that's on the next page. Or modeling teams.
Yes.
So you don't consider yourself a modeler, correct?
No, I don't consider myself a modeler.
Okay. Let me just check my notes. I might start too general, so please feel free to correct me. But your review of both the swim and Leffler changes focused on the hydrostratigraphy aspects of the concept. Is that correct?
There are various different aspects that we focused on. Hydrostratigraphy was one of the key ones.
Okay, so when you say one of the key ones, does that mean it was more important than ones that aren't key ones?
Let me maybe rephrase that. There were several key focus areas in review of the model, and hydrostratigraphy was one of them.
Okay, how many key focuses were there?
We looked at hydrostratigraphy. We looked at heads and gradients. We looked at, let me back up a moment. Are we talking about the swim model or the updated model or both? So let me just make sure that we're clear on that.
That's a good question, and I'm pausing because I want to do it right and efficiently. And
Truth be told, Mr. Asias, I can probably help you. I'm talking about both as I give this answer.
okay, well, that's helpful, but and your counsel would ask you to wait for my question because otherwise it causes anxiety. But
Yes.
I'm very calm, Mr. Osias.
thank you. You sort of had you had work in your pocket. I don't mean literally, from reviewing and critiquing the swim, which you built upon to then review the Leffler changes and prepare your testimony here. Is that a fair description?